Was very nice actually.
Welcome to PhaseBound, the cloud workshop. We are this week in week 3 looking at practical use case and implementations and real life enterprise. And let me introduce Fulden, who has lots for us to see this week.
Hi, I hope everyone is well and you are excited for this week's material. It is implementation and workflows when it comes to AI, of course. This is where we are going to begin shaping your operation model with AI.
So I'm going to let you into a secret, folks. We are talking about real life examples as Fulden prepares the slides, which you will know the brand names of. You will have heard of the businesses, and we've done quite a lot of extensive research on this to make sure that we can give you further information on. And as a business owner, maybe, or a director of a company, if you want to know more, reach out to us and we will provide that further information and background consultation should it be required for them.
Wonderful. When you are ready, I am ready to share.
Excellent. So, week 3 is implementation and workflows, where teams begin shaping their intelligent operation model. Shall we learn together and grow together?
Wonderful. So implementation and workflows.
So, what have we already looked at, Fulden, so far in the first 2 weeks?
Well, we looked at mindset and reality shift. And then last week we were talking about practical use cases. We have provided quite a number of use cases from real life examples. And this week we will be going into implementation. So it was all about, we were experimenting about the mind shift. We were experimenting about how to identify if we can implement and how we can implement the use cases for AI into our organizations, how to identify this. But this week we will be actually going into, again, real life examples about how to implement AI. So my name is Fulden Çetin. We've introduced ourselves last week, but I will do a very short introduction again. I'm one of the founders and directors of PhaseBound, and I've been working as operations manager at Network Life Group Limited for the past 9 years. So very familiar about AI use cases in our own organizations as well. I'm specializing in business operations, workflow design, and AI-driven efficiency. And over to you, John.
So, I'm John Fairest, as you can see, AI consultant, trainer, and a bit of an AI prompt engineer. So, the key things in connection with this would be that I have worked for M Group for 23 years, and in the last year or so, I've been involved with looking at the software within the group and actually how it could be implemented to a divisional team. Um, and this led me to look at the fact that AI is something we need to know right from the prompt stage right through to the content delivery. And it really depends on understanding the prompt to understand the outcome. Those are the key bits to me.
Okay, so are you ready? For your organization, this week will be the foundation for a very long-term transformation. So if you are ready, we are ready. So,
So we're looking at
mhm.
map the workflow, identifying decision points, defining human and AI roles, and creating repeatable patterns within AI workflow design.
So how do we start mapping workflow design, we need to start asking questions, right? So, for example, where are the decision points? Where does human judgment matter? Where can AI assist? So, workflow design is the foundation of intelligent operations. Let's give a real life example here. So Siemens is a very well-known organization to everyone, I believe. So Siemens designed their maintenance workflow using AI. So Siemens maintenance workflow redesign is powered by their own Intelligence Center X
Yeah.
software. This is an industrial AI orchestration system. So this platform connects sensor data to workflows, workflows to AI agents, and AI agents to human engineers in one governed environment.
Right, I would add a little bit extra to this in the
Please.
sense I'll explain that I actually live very close to a number of Siemens facilities,
Mhm,
and within the energy sector, as an example, we see a lot of Siemens data collection within the energy division. So within energy, as a UK customer, you may find this particular brand is actually against your wall measuring electric and gas, for example.
mhm, mhm. So when they use this system, what happened? Good flow work design reduced the cognitive load and increased speed and created more consistency across different teams within
Yeah.
Siemens.
Yeah.
So shall we move on to next step? That
Whoa.
is process mapping for AI.
Yes, before AI, current state, all manual steps, all tools used, emails, spreadsheets, portals, don't we love them? All decision points, all handovers, all delays. But then Fulden has a solution.
Well, what is my solution? Okay, this is after AI, what you see on the screen. After AI, everything is redesigned for AI. So everything is nice, clean, data is clean and automatable um, so that it flows.
Yes,
So what do we do? With the redesign of AI, data is better structured and removed all the unnecessary steps that creates a workflow that the AI can support.
yes.
We can give an example for this. So London Borough Redbridge is a very good example, actually. Um, they redesigned, this council redesigned their workflow from 14 steps to 5 steps, using automated extraction to validation. So they provided a clean, automatable flow. As you can see on the screen as well, after clearing inputs, structuring data, defining triggers, repeatable patterns, human review at key points, automation where possible, Redbridge was able to reduce processing time from 10 days to 48 hours only.
So when we look at this,
Hmm.
what sort of automation systems would we be looking at? Are we looking at things like make.com that actually you set a series of triggers and actions to give us a set result and a loop to take the data back clean for the next stage? Are we looking at other systems like CRMs that are in this process? Yes, we are. We're looking at different numbers of software that will integrate. And if you were, for example, a Microsoft Azure student, or you have staff looking at Microsoft Azure as a platform, you may well be using agentic systems to actually do that. That's like a bot that will actually have a task of doing this process for you, and you can then identify how that process is running.
Excellent. Yes. So everything becomes faster. The manual entry is reduced, and more consistent processing. This strong example, Redbridge is a very strong example for us.
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting things from a lot of people's perspectives
Mhm.
is emails and spreadsheets. Now, you might have, for example, a laptop with something called Microsoft Copilot. Some of these things will be processed within what we call enterprise level access, and Copilot can be found within the Microsoft Azure platform. Google has something similar, as AWS has as well. Those are the three prominent cloud-based operations that most of us may have heard of.
So let's move to AI agents in this case. Autonomous or semi-autonomous systems that monitor workflows, trigger actions, perform tasks, support teams. So AI agents are autonomous and semi-autonomous systems that perform tasks and do all these things. They are the backbone of intelligent operations. So we can think of AI agents as our digital teammates, if you like.
Yes, we can also consider that you're probably going to have one place where all this data goes round in and out during the process. Two examples of systems that certainly we can talk about if you require information. It's N8N and, as I say, Make, both of which actually provide these flow options to build into your CRM. An example of a CRM might be somewhere like HubSpot.
Yes, yes. Um, so would you like us to explain a little more about AI agents and real life example? And on the previous slide, for example, we mentioned about monitor workflows, trigger actions, perform tasks. So maybe a little bit clarity we can provide on that. So data triggers, sensor data anomalies and transaction anomalies. So these are the data triggers. Whenever there is an anomaly, then this triggers the data. So then this causes the workflow to be triggered. A new case enters, a QA document is uploaded, a form is submitted, and then daily checks can also be a trigger. Daily checks are the scans, scheduled maintenance cycles. Then there are event triggers. So these are system errors, threshold breaches, customer requests. And then there are human triggers. So these are, for example, engineer requests, briefing analyst requests, case summary. So that kind of things are considered as triggers.
Yes. Now, whenever I think of support teams, I think of things like your ticket system, where you're actually asked to put a ticket in within a system.
Mhm.
So, the company I work for has ticket systems for certain things. You put the ticket in, and you'll get your ticket number as
Mhm.
evidence. And if it's processed, great. But if it's not processed, there'll be that email coming into your company email. Clearly, that information can be extremely useful because when you get that bit of information, that ticket number, that can be followed through and can be checked by humans to make sure that issues are being dealt with.
Yes, yes. Sometimes, for example, imagine when you call to a call center, they give you a reference number, and when you call next time or email them, they ask you to use that reference number. This is the ticket number.
Yeah.
Otherwise, every single time you connect them, you contact them for exactly the same reason with no reference number, it will be difficult for them to put all these different ticket numbers for the same case together. So this needs, for example, human interaction.
Yeah. One of the interesting things I see here, we have got, it states HSBC uses agents to monitor compliance workflows. If you use things like
Mhm,
Microsoft, it has a setup called OCR where it'll actually look at the data and of a receipt, and it can actually identify information and provide that to your supply system. Now, it's not just Microsoft that can do that. Options available through Oracle for things like receipt systems, etc., also function on the same basis. And for example, you might find something like Microsoft Azure platform could well be connected to something like Oracle for dealing with those key areas for some companies.
Yes, and AI agents are the next evolution of automation at the moment, aren't they? So unlike traditional scripts, agents can now observe, decide, and they can act. So they monitor workflows, trigger tasks, and collaborate with humans more
Yes.
compared to previously designed software systems.
The one thing I would add here, in actual fact,
Mhm,
is that you have to prompt and instruct these agents
mhm,
in what you want to do. They do not just do it without you looking at it as a team to decide the information you want and also reviewing the information you're getting back. And this ties in very much with the slide automation,
mhm.
which looks at removing repetitive work, reducing manual effort, increase consistency, and improve system performance, in my opinion. Is that the line that we're going with on this particular slide, Holden?
It is actually, it is because many people are now thinking that, oh, AI agents are replacing human. However, automation is not about replacing people. It is about removing repetitive work, reducing errors, and increasing consistency. So we can all focus on higher value tasks. So yes, AI will replace some of the works, but this will not be replacing people. So we need to learn how to use AI so that we can benefit the most from AI. So whoever
Excellent.
knows how to use AI will not be replaced. It is simple. Sorry, maybe I'm being too direct here, but there is always this question mark about AI replacing people, but we just need to learn how to make use of AI and become better decision makers.
Now, British Airways, this
Hmm.
is a real life automation example. British Airways automated parts of their customer compensation workflow. The AI review claims and checks eligibility, drafts responses, and prepares case summaries. What's the result of that? It gives faster resolution times and more consistent communication. Now, in every part of this, folks, if you're watching this and thinking, well, how to do it? What to do it? If you're coming to our website looking at our systems, all the information is going to be there, all the citation, reference notes, and everything else like that as part of this content. But would you like to explain more, Fulden?
Of course, what BA did is a great example, one of the great examples actually. BA automated their compensation workflow using AI-powered document and case processing tools. And the specific platform helps AI to review the compensation claims better. So what it does, it reviews the claims and then if it is claimable or not claimable, then it directs the document application to the correct department. So again, it just reduces the very first phase of the initial claim documents. And what does it do? It makes the progress faster.
Human and AI collaboration. It looks at shared workflows, AI assistance, but humans decide. It reduces human cognitive load with faster execution. This sounds fascinating, Filden.
Yes, it does. This is a very good example of teamwork model, new teamwork model. So AI handles information-heavy tasks, and we provide judgment. We have the empathy and oversight as well. So we are talking here about two overlapping skills actually. AI and human skills are overlapping. So let's give it an example. PwC. On PwC, for example, consultants use AI co-pilots to prepare meeting summaries, analyze documents, and draft client updates. So they refine the output and make final decisions.
Now, I'm trying to think who PwC are. What sector are they actually in?
Okay, they are consultants, and I will tell you exactly what they do. Just 1 second, bear with me,
I
please.
might be wrong here. My instinctive thought process is accountancy, but I might be totally.
They do audits, they do consulting and tax in finance sector.
Ah, right. I wasn't far off the mark then, was I, with
Yeah, it is
accounting?
PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Yeah, yes. I was trying to remember PwC, what's it stood for, and I'm sure many other people when they get to these things. But actually, Copilot is very, very practical if they were using that, for example, like a lot of the other AI pilots. The meeting summaries, I find it can be used on Teams. I can actually look through Teams chats to see what's happening on a regular basis, which I think is very useful. And analyzing documents.
Yes.
Have you ever had a large document, folks? Have you ever had one of those documents absolutely full of information? The 10-pager document, and the actual fact you haven't got that much time to read every single paragraph, digest it before the meeting you're about to walk into. So you need a quick summary. What a great process this can be for us to actually look at that and also potentially draft those client responses or be ready for that meeting when you've just received it seconds beforehand. Never happened to you, Fulden, has it?
Well, of course, happened to me all the time. It happens to me. I will give you an example, another example, if that helps. So, for example, Camden Council is a very good example of human AI collaboration. They use this concept in their digital housing repairs workflow. So Camden Council redesigned their housing repairs workflow using automation and AI-assisted triage. So now, as a result of this, they have faster repairs, better prioritization, reduced call center load, and I think this is a perfect example of what AI can do. So less complaining tenants, right?
Never. Really? Scaling and
Hopefully.
adoption. Scaling and adoption. The pilot and the prove value. Deploy and expand. Integration and optimize. Scale and transform. I'll hand it back to you, but I've got something else to say on this. But I think,
Yeah, I have lots to
yeah.
say on this. Well, scaling requires repeatable patterns, governance, and clear workflows. So we move from isolated wins and we move on to enterprise-wide transformation here. That is the stage. So let's explain it a little bit more in detail if you like. So what is pilot and prove value? So this is the first phase where organizations test one workflow with a small team within the organization. So the goal is not the perfection, but it is to prove that this workflow using AI will help us to improve the output. So this is the stage where we learn what works, what breaks, and what needs redesigning. So this is a very good pace where we create confidence and momentum.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that really strikes me, you've got pilots and prove value up to 6 months, 6 months to 18 months, which is
Yeah,
obviously a
this is for
12-month
deployment.
window.
Mhm,
Integration and optimization, 8 to 36 months. Now, that's funny enough, 3 years.
mhm.
And scale and transform, 3 years plus months. You're
Yes,
not looking when you're scaling and adopting, you're not looking at doing it in 5 minutes. You're not looking potentially at trying to do it with one software that might change and change and change and change. So you are going to be scaling from a smaller thing and potentially having to adapt as to your large language model. This is where you get ChatGPT and everything else. Those are the keywords like ChatGPT, or you've got Claude, or you've got other platforms that you might be using. You're actually looking at the fact that during this time, there may be changes within the software, and you have got to build that into your adoption process, that things will change within that 3 years. So at recording, we're in July 2026. If we'd started on this and we were reaching scale and transformation, that's 3 years ago, that would be 2023. I look at how software has changed in that time and the number of different brands that have come into process in that time. It's quite an interesting concept to consider for business.
it is indeed. But let me tell you one thing about this. This timeline is actually for big companies, big organizations. So for small to medium-sized companies, the timeline is much shorter because their processes are not as grand as very big companies or organizations. So that's why 0 to 6 months may, for example, uh, feel very long for small companies, but it may not take that long. But what happens? Okay, we explain the pilot and prove value part. Deploy and expand. What happens here? So once the pilot proves value for the company within a small team and within a workflow, then that expands to a full department. This is where patterns emerge, the reuse of workflow design, training approach, and the governance model comes into effect. And scaling becomes easier because then we are repeating what already works. We know it works, it is already proved.
Mm.
So then the next stage is integrate and optimize. At this stage, AI becomes part of the organization's culture. Multiple departments adopt AI workflows, and the leaders or management team begins to see measurable impact on the company or organization. So that is reduced admin, faster decisions, cleaner data, and more capacity. And then the last one is scale and scale and transform. So this is the final stage, I will say. AI becomes part of the organization's operating model. Workflows are designed with AI from the start, and teams collaborate with AI agents. Automation is strategic, and the management team leaders measure outcomes, not activity any longer. So shall we move on to the next step?
Yeah.
Scaling adoption and real-life example, NHS. Over to
So
you.
we're looking at the NHS Trust North of England. Started with one AI workflow, appointments and triage. A key point about it, if you think about A&E, because obviously there is a triage there, potential process. Um, Scale to document processing and patient queries, HR onboarding, and internal knowledge search. If we think that the knowledge search alone of understanding and getting feedback and confirming issues like medication, I would imagine, and operational requirements, they're key bits. So thousands of hours saved across departments, that must be key for the NHS because of the waiting list is quite a political challenge, isn't it, Fulton?
Yes, I was actually watching the news yesterday. I think it was on the news. So the number of waiting patients are decreased on NHS across the UK. So it seems like it is working, right? And within
And
such a huge organization, NHS, this is.
yes, the NHS as well, if one takes on board the size of internalized systems
Hmm.
based on also the confidentiality of the records and stuff like
Mhm.
that, it's got a slightly more in-depth
Mhm.
corporate requirement to most businesses based on those key bits of information.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you will remember all these companies from last week. We were experimenting the idea of implementing AI. And here is the example now. We will give you more information about this. So Unilever's automated invoice matching becomes a full procure to pay workflow. And
Oper-
we gave example about operations.
Yep.
That was DHL. DHL's route optimization became an end-to-end logistic workflow. And as far as I'm concerned, they are still working on it. They are still trying to improve the progress. Would you like to continue, John?
Um, I think one of the two or three things here that really strike me. If you look at HR,
Hmm.
Vodafone's
Yes.
employee support, AI becomes a full HR knowledge workflow. Now, I get where that could be coming from. That could be coming from something like a chatbot or something like that, which staff can access through internally logging in. So, as an example, they may be using a system where they're logging in and they can only access information through company equipment. So, if you are a medium-sized business at which you may be using equipment directly interconnected to your cloud infrastructure. You're probably going to be using a cloud infrastructure if you're one of those people who are on this call, this video watching it. You might be thinking of your own cloud structure, and you may well be logging in using what they call Entra ID or something called SSO, single sign-on. That's kind of where you're going to get that information about the internal messages within the company. With customer services, BT's message classification becomes a multi-channel support workflow. BT's in the communication industry. They, like Vodafone, will have made key decisions based on the knowledge of what they know they need to provide within their systems. Now, Shell, as a field service, is an area that we can look at the monitoring becoming predictive maintenance workflow. If we look at all the things that Shell is involved in terms of fuel, from where it may be drilled to when it gets to a pump, that's quite a lot of a process they may be looking at. But finally, I'm going to remind you, if you've watched one of our previous videos, you'll remember something about the World Cup. The Football World Cup was mentioned on a previous video. Now, if you haven't, I would suggest looking back at this because I raised the issue of what happens if there's a change within a process of optimizing the personalized products of Coca-Cola might have. So I'm not going to go any further because I'm going to say to you folks, if you haven't watched the previous videos that we've done, you need to look through. Over to you, Fulton.
So let
AI workflow model. We're looking at human expertise, the sort of expertise that Fulton's got. We're looking at AI assistants, which have to be programmed, prompted, have to have directions. What do I mean by prompting and instructions? AI assistants, you will give it an instruction as to introducing itself, what it can talk about, where it can source the information
Mhm.
that you are providing. You would give it knowledge base within an assistant that it can then actually retrieve information from. Potentially, you may only want your own company documents. The review and validation is very important because if you are having conversations within your own dashboard, you should be able to see those conversations that have occurred and how accurate it is. And you can set goals that the AI assistant is expected to hit, like, for example, asking for a telephone number, asking for emails, asking for the contact data, and also looking at the reason for the message or call so that you can potentially identify the solution. Now, in this day and age, we could be talking about voice and text chat bots we often come across within business, and those can then generate content. You get the data back and you get quite a lot of use. It's like having a virtual assistant open 24/7. When the office closes, in the evenings and the weekends, maybe this assistant can make all the difference to your business. So the review and validation of it can be very, very useful. And of course, automation with that can also mean that the data is coming into your other parts of the system, giving it improved business outcome. But I'm sure Fulton's going to give you even more explanation now.
Yes. Um, Well, this model actually, AI workflow model, ensures AI is used safely and effectively. So humans provide expertise, AI assists with analysis and drafting, and we validate this information. We obtain from AI assistant. So automation handles repetitive execution here. The outcome is consistent and high quality work. Providing that we internally provide the knowledge base to the AI agent, as John has just explained about this. So a good example for this is Swiss Group, KPMG. They do financial audits and tax-related documentation and provide help about this. It's a very big company actually, and they are UK focus. So with their model, they use something called Clara for
Mm.
automation. And then it analyzes, Clara AI analyzes documents they have, and then they internally review all these documents AI analyzes and provides them with, and then the automation prepares reports. So doing this, they save thousands of hours across different departments they have. They have tax department, audits department, vice versa. So that brings us.
Implementation roadmaps look
Mhm.
fascinating. Shall I cover this one? It's a step-by-step process, isn't it?
It
Now, if
is.
we reflect back on what we were saying earlier on about time frame, I
Mhm,
can tell you that I've been involved in an exercise of implementing a system
mhm,
within a company. There was 6 months to actually test it, using users like myself testing it, putting in
mhm,
recommendations, setting a series of blocks, etc. Now, I found that quite fascinating because we're looking at the process now. There was a mapping of process situation. There was a designing the workflow, looking at how the workflow is going to operate, the questions. So as a business, you might be looking at the questions you need to be asking, the results that you're looking for. Will you be looking at a sort of line of logic where I'm thinking of conditional logic, where
mhm.
if you ask question A, it goes to B if you say yes, but if you on question A say no, it goes to question C. Why? Because it means it flows through. So if you've got a workflow, you will have a series of areas that will go to different things to give you the result in the situation that you're in, however that data is coming through. Now, having been involved in the engineering side of it, if the flow of the questions don't work, that can be a problem. So you have to look at the design of the workflow. You also have to look at to make sure that where AI is actually operational in your workflow, that it understands the processes and has been programmed to operate within that. Now, if you look at a few thousand staff, if you're testing with a small team, you get a selection of staff from the different departments that were using it to sit down in a room. And I'm not saying this is exactly what happened a year ago for me, but a series of testers sat in a room looking at different devices, for example. It might not just be one device you're operating off. So you need to understand if all your devices are going to function on the flow that you're working with. If they don't, you have to change or you have to look at the access to that. So if that's an issue that you haven't considered, check to make sure that your systems will cope with the software. If it's older systems that you currently have, maybe you need to update it to actually allow for that software. So within AI, that is quite useful. We scale gradually from a team of about 10 people to a implementation, and it was a staggered process.
It is. It is. So I will ask you a question here,
Go
Ron.
on then, oh dear.
We have been always talking about the processes, AI, and what needs to be done, model, workflows,
Mhm.
vice versa. So why don't we, or why do not the companies just purchase an AI software and then just start using it the next day or the same day?
So if they invest in the software, you will initially have glitches within the software as you try to identify what the questions are. People tend to put things in and not evaluate as thoroughly as they might wish to.
Mhm. Mhm.
And sometimes when we have the glitches, we actually can't see the immediate answer to the question.
Okay, I will tell you one thing about this. In the end of the day, okay, the software is ready there. For example, let's say you have a retail company and um, an AI technology development company comes and makes the marketing pitch, and they say, "Oh, we have this fantastic software designed particularly for your sector and your size retail company." It won't work. It is, you can't just buy the software and implement it. So implementation is a different thing because in the end of the day, whatever it is there, the program is there, but In the end of the day, users are us, and we know how to use it. We know how it will purpose within our organization to our particular use. That's why implement. I I've asked for this for a reason because especially with small and medium-sized companies, they will think, "Oh, I just buy and I start using when the company is there." No, I'm afraid it doesn't work like this. It is because every company is a living organization, and every single company has a different way of working. Um, a particular software may help you, but it may need to be adjusted
Yeah,
to your particular needs.
yeah.
So that's why you need to make sure it works before you purchase anything.
There is another factor also involved in this.
Mhm,
Where you have existing software
mhm,
or the process and you're integrating AI into it, you need to be looking at where it's working and where it isn't. So here's an
mhm,
example of where it might or might not work. You are setting these things up
mhm.
and you have a regulatory requirement to fill in certain questions, etc.
Yes.
And where it's a regulatory requirement, you may have to program AI to actually ensure that that provision is built in. And
Mhm,
if it's not built in or built in the wrong place within a flow, or you
mhm.
make everything mandatory, but the real life example will not necessarily be mandatory, my recommendation is always get the people who are doing the job into the process because
Definitely, you must. You
they can
must.
tell you where there might be a blip. And when they tell you, don't ignore it
Mhm,
because they're talking from reality. If you're sat behind the desk and looking at it, you may not know the process out in the field.
mhm.
And that can be where a hurdle occurs. It's going to affect your customer.
Yes. So that's why these steps, 5 steps you see on the screen are very, very important. And I would like to very shortly explain this. The first one, make the process. So it is really important you make the process from the beginning, design the workflow, includes this part, includes redesign, human AI role definition, which one has what responsibilities, and friction removal. You have to remove the frictions, otherwise AI will not work as you expect. So then integrate AI. So plot models, connect data, build triggers. This is the part where you do all these things. And step 4, test with a small team within your organization. So user feedback is very important here. Refinement, this is how you do refinement to your AI model. Without user feedback, you are not able to do this. You definitely need this, real users and their feedback and guardrails. And step 5, scale gradually. So this is depending on your organization size, then you can scale. So AI leaders scale within 6 months, others may take 16 months, depending on the size of the company. So this provide you with another very good example, real life example for you. So this is the entertainer. This is UK toy retailer.
Yeah, the entertainer mapped stock replenishment workflow, redesigned process to remove manual steps, integrated AI for forecasting and supplier communication, piloted in 5 stores, and then scaled to operations, customer service, and marketing. Now, the outcome involved faster ordering cycles, reduced admin, improved forecasting accuracy. Now, here's a viewpoint for you to reflect on, folks. Christmas and UK toy retailers. Fulden.
Yes. Okay, we have mentioned about common mistakes last week, but we didn't give you an example. But this week we will give you a very good example for that as well. So common mistakes are automating bad processes. This actually amplifies the anomalies, not the good parts when AI use. No workflow design, no human oversight, poor data quality, scaling too fast. And if you do these mistakes, what happens?
Real
Oh,
life common mistake examples. Oh my goodness. HMRC UK government. Anybody heard of HMRC? Ooh, tax. An area we wouldn't want mistakes with, would we? Automated a legacy workflow with inconsistent data. Oh no. AI amplified errors, rolled out paused, workflow redesigned, and human review added. Fulden.
well, that was a very important, that's a very important example on a huge scale, isn't it? So they attempted to automate parts of their tax credit fraud detection workflow, but the underlying process was inconsistent. They had poor data with poor data quality and unclear roles. Um, it didn't work because the workflow wasn't redesigned first, and the AI system amplified errors instead of reducing them. So HMRC had to pause the rollout, fix the processes, and then add human review before reintroducing the automation. So this is why we always say, never automate a broken process. So the mistake here, what was the mistake? Mistake here was automating a broken process and using poor data. It wasn't clean data what they used. And this caused the AI system to amplify existing errors instead of reducing them. Thousands of legitimate claims were flagged incorrectly. Staff had to manually review the cases, so they actually increased their workload instead of reducing it. So the organization realized, HMRC realized, they had automated a flawed process rather than fixing it first.
Yes.
Things happen.
Again, we will provide citations on this.
Yes. So we are here for your workshop exercise for week 3. So here is your checklist. We are going to make you work for this, that's for sure. So this exercise will help your organization and your teams to build their first intelligent workflow. So hands-on for you. It is practical, simple, and immediately useful for your company. We would advise you to map one workflow, identify the friction, and define which roles your team members and AI will take responsibility of, and create your first intelligent workflow and share it with us.
Just
Yeah.
an added thought on this, folks. It is worthwhile if you've got enterprise access to the AI, which hopefully you have when you're doing this. It obviously keeps the data more secure from your perspective, but actually get it to iterate and look for the faults. Now, we know recently that the US government actually stopped one of Anthropic's models from being tested too closely because of fears and concerns in their view over that particular software. But in reality, often AI can actually do some very useful things. It can check through that workflow. It can identify the frictions, give you the solutions to those frictions, but also advise you and actually put those friction spots. I'll be honest, Fulton. With
Yes.
this, I would use two AI things, two different systems to double check rather than rely on one. Why? Because sometimes one thing will pick up where there is a bit of a bad process that the
Mhm.
other system hasn't noticed.
Perfect. This is what we would like to hear.
The other suggestion I've got, thinking about it, is your prompt for your AI. Ask the AI what it would prompt, give it the example of what you're going to prompt, then ask to achieve this, give me
Mhm.
the prompt that you would recommend. You might get shocked and learn a little bit about the prompting that you're doing, literally by asking your AI model as to its recommendation and then asking why it's recommending that to actually give it to get it to validate itself on that prompt.
So, shall we summarize this week now?
Indeed, AI delivers value when workflows are clear, structured, automatable, human validation, and scalable. So the goal is more, not more AI, the goal is better workflows.
Yes, so this week we moved into implementation and workflows. We explored how to design AI workflows, make processes, and integrate AI agents. So we looked at automation, human AI collaboration, and how to scale adoption across teams. This week is the bridge between use cases and full transformation, and we would like you to make the most of it. And coming to next week.
So in week 4, this is a preview of what you can expect. We're going to be looking at that area of risk and governance and leadership. Responsible AI. What is it? What does it look like? What is the difference between AI and responsible AI? Governance. We're in the UK here in this particular recording. You might be elsewhere. You need to look at the governance rules and regulations. Let me give you an example where governance and responsible AI might refer to. As an example, you might be looking at GDPR and your data. Leadership. Leadership is a key aspect to this process. And we'll be looking closely at what that actually means. The long-term strategy. Okay, AI is moving fast. We know that. We know it's changing. You're hearing it in the news every day. Data centers costs. How much is it going to cost on my return of investment? How much are these tokens going to cost? Yeah, we know. Well, that's going to be part of your strategy. And so, therefore, this is why week 4, you don't want to miss out. You want to get to see this week 4 to understand, to guide your long term strategy. Holden.
Yes, it will be also about responsible AI. So this will complete the transformation journey next week. So we are all expecting you to be here with us. So you can see what we have done up until now. And I would like to thank you all for joining us on our week 3 AI broadcast series. Over to you, John.
Yes, this is a particularly informative time for so many of you. And I would repeat again the citations and information, the storyline links we are actually adding to the site and the systems that we have available. for you to be able to look at and understand and take on board some of the comments we've made. So we do provide consultancy options for you, and we as a operation will be actually able to give you the guidance, direction, etc., and talk about the software that may suit you, particularly in your journey.
Yes, we will be happy to help you. So please do your workshop exercise for this week, implementation and workflows, and contact us and share with us what you created and share your questions with us. As John said, we provide mentorship and consultancy, so keep in touch.